Ground terminal information Golf. Expect instrument approach. Runways 11 left, centre and right. All active. Circuit to be advised. Frequency 132.8. Runway surface conditions 555. All runways wet. Wind variable 3 knots. Visibility greater than 10 kilometres. Reduced to 4,000 metres in passing showers. Clouds scattered 1,400. Broken 2,300. Temperature 20, QNH 1020. On first contact, the Bankstown Tower or ground, notify receipt of information Golf.
Okay, welcome. Welcome back. It's been quite a while since I've done one of these videos. The reason for that, I've been really busy establishing my new business, which is Diamond Air Taxis. So I've been busy doing we'll get some air conditioning on here, busy doing some charter flights, and also really just establishing everything that's associated with that business. I want to demonstrate today the website to you guys because I think you might find it interesting. And also I've been busy getting a type rating in a jet, a Citation jet, a Citation Mustang. And so I'm going to talk to you about that today and that process, which has been really quite an interesting process as well. So we'll just get set up here. I might cut some of this out, but I'll just run you through my flow. And we'll do the checklist items first, and then we'll have a look at this website. So quickly, we've started the engines. Everything looks normal on the screen here. I might just reset my fuel here. So I've got 70 gallons on board. So we'll just pop that in here first. 69.4, okay. We'll pop our position lights on. We'll leave our taxi lights and landing lights off for now. We'll come around to the side here. I'm going to run a test on the de-icing system here, the TKS system. So we put that into test mode. We'll leave the voter switches for now. The alternators are on. The pumps are off. Electric master's on. Avionics master, I've already got that on. Pitot heat will test. So we turn that on. Make sure the amps go up. Turns off and comes back down. That's all normal. Do our gear test. That's normal. We'll put the flaps through the full range and then into the takeoff position and make sure that they're doing what we think they're going to do, and they do. Oxygen, we've got all our circuit breakers in, pedals are out of the way, alternate air's off, rudder trim's reset, heating is off, parking brake is set. We can press our takeoff go around button here and get that ready to go. Our trim's set for takeoff on the elevator here. We can put the fuel system into crossfeed, so they feed from the opposite tanks. Make sure that functions normally. Both of our auxiliary
Bravo, sorry, by Echo Juliet Alpha 1 to parking.
Echo Juliet Alpha 1 to parking.
Both of our aux pumps are off, and so that's all looking good. Then we can come back up here and have a look at our control stick. So firstly, just make sure we've got full and free movement, which we do. We've got trims working, electric trim. Individually they don't work, and it disengages. We're testing autopilot now, and just make sure control wheel steering works and the disengage works. All right, that all looks good. Now we'll set up our panel here. So what we'll do is we'll ping the flight plan across here. I'm recording on the screen here, so we'll put that over to the map. It's quite interesting at the moment. There's actually a tropical cyclone approaching Brisbane, and by the time I put this out, it will have come and gone. So I guess we'll find out how that all went. But it's actually showing here as a big circle tropical cyclone. There it is, Alfred. So that's approaching Brisbane. The ice pressure low caution, that is indicating the test is complete. So we turn that test off. And that's now back to normal. And all we got in the CAS messages is Pete on, and the store heat's off. So that's all normal. And we'll just plug that again. Okay, so there's a bit of weather up north. We've actually got quite a bit of weather here. You might be able to see the rain all around. Got moderate, sort of light to moderate rain at the moment. So it's going to be IFR conditions for departure. So our route looks fine though, and weather in Canberra looks okay. Should have said we're heading Sydney down to Canberra today, and back. Just a quick flight down and back.
And Kaitu, we just have a Glex coming in on the approach. We were just wondering if you wanted to do a runway inspection, just if there's any standing water, but entirely up to you.
Interesting. They must need all the runway to stop.
Just runway center, if that's okay.
Okay, so let's ping this flight plan across. So we'll close that. Oops, we'll leave that, and we'll go to flights. In fact, we'll go to maps, and we'll fire that across to the panel. Center panel comes across. Preview. Bankstown, Pegsu, Canberra, Victor 169. That looks good. So that's our flight plan in. We'll might as well put in the departure while we're here as well. 11 center. Load that. So that all looks ready to go. Temperatures are warming up. And it's actually, the aircon's pretty effective. It's quite cool in here at the moment. Right, so there's our route, Bankstown down to Canberra. What I wanted to show you though is something I'm really excited is finally out there, which is our Diamond Air Taxis website. And what it is, it's a booking website that allows you to book anything non-airline, so non-RPT. So essentially, on-demand private flights from anywhere to anywhere, within reason. So what we can do, and I'll just give it a little bit more power while the aircon's running as well. Okay, so what we can do is head over here, and if you go to the website diamondairtaxis.com, you'll get a website that looks like this. What you can do is, it's pretty simple, clean, just say where you want to go from. And today I'm going from Sydney to Canberra, so we'll just mirror that. So Sydney, Bankstown to Canberra, so you type in Canberra, and the date. Now I'll put a date off in the future, maybe a couple of weeks out, maybe we'll go Friday the 28th of March. And we'll put a return in, we'll do a same day return, 28th of March. We'll put a couple of passengers, maybe 3 passengers on there, and search. Now, what it'll ask you, because what it does is it does a weight and balance check. So it needs to know the weights of the passengers. Now, because once you've used it once, it remembers the passengers that you've entered. So I just need to type in the first 3 letters of the passenger name and it will remember the details, which saves a lot of time for if you come back and rebook. I've got a passenger here called heavyweight and another passenger called lightweight, just to add in just to sort of play with the different weights. First name light, last name weight. There we go, 3 passengers, view flights. Okay, so now it does a whole heap of checks. It's looking for what aircraft are available, what pilots are available that can fly those aircraft on that date. It checks the weather for departure, checks the weather for arrival, it's checking the weight and balance, it's checking whether it can get fuel at Canberra, it's checking a whole heap of stuff, which is why it takes a few seconds to do this. And then it comes up with a bunch of options. So it says, do you want to depart at 5 a.m.? And it'll be nighttime, and you'll arrive at nighttime at 5:41 earliest. And if I just show you what it looks like when you click on that, is it says, well, you can go in a Citation Mustang, operated by Navair, or you can go with a Diamond DA62, operated by Navair, which is this aircraft. If you go in the Diamond DA62, it'll take you 58 minutes. On the Mustang, it'll take you 41, and that includes some allowance for taxi time. It's telling you you're going to arrive there in nighttime when you get there as well, so it knows that, and it gives you a per passenger price. So the DA62 for this flight is going to cost you $717 per person. The Mustang will cost you $1,800 per person for those 3 people. So let's pick a more reasonable time, maybe 7 a.m. departure when it's daytime. I want to be able to see the scenery, and maybe I want to book the DA62. So I select the DA62. Now it knows I want to return on the same day, so it's going to ask me about my when do I want to return. So the options here. I'll just turn that down a bit. So the options here are you can return at 9 a.m., 9:30, 10 o'clock. So basically it gives you every half an hour. It runs on a half an hour cycle basically. So it says when you want to return, and you notice that the actual price for the return flight is really, really small in comparison to the price for the outgoing flight. And the reason for that is because we generally don't have, we're not an airline, we don't have people at the other end to come back. When you book a flight, you're basically paying for the return flight. So you've already paid for the return flight when you book the outbound leg. What it's doing now is it's saying, well, if you want us to wait on the ground for you for a period of time, that's fine, we can do that up to a limit, and the limit is generally the duty time limit for the pilot. But what it'll do is it'll charge you for that because obviously there's a lost opportunity cost while the aircraft's sitting on the ground, but there's also a cost of expenses for that pilot. They're probably going to have to get a taxi, they're going to have to get some food, they're going to maybe have a day room booked at a hotel. So it basically charges a fee to wait on the ground. So let's say we want to come back at, I don't know, 4 o'clock, pretty much spend the whole day there, have some meetings or whatever we want to do. Canberra to Sydney Bankstown, it knows that you want to probably come back in the DA62 because that's the plane that's waiting for you, and then you select that. It then brings you to this page, which shows you the summary. So trip details, Sydney to Canberra, Canberra to Sydney, 3 passengers. The total for 3 passengers, 2,631, but per person it's 877, which is not dissimilar to what you might pay on a business class sort of ticket or the higher airfare sort of tickets. But you're going when you want, you're coming back when you want. It's on your terms. There's no security. There's no check-in. There's an online check-in process, but there's no basically delays. There's no airport delays. There's no parking problems. It's just turn up and go. Because I've entered these passengers before, it remembers all their details, so that makes that part of the process really quick. I wanted to draw your attention to the cancellation policy. To make this really appealing for people, what we've done is we've said, if you book it in, if you want to cancel any time up to 7 days before the flight, just cancel. No reason, no questions asked, and you'll get all your money back, every cent. If you cancel 2 days out, so 48 hours before the flight, you'll still get 75% of your money back, which is, I think, is pretty generous. And then if you cancel on the day or within that 2 days, or you just don't even turn up for your flight, you'll still get half your money back. We're not going to take all your money. We'll still give you half your money back because the flight didn't happen. So you basically need to agree to the terms of the operator and the terms of Diamond Air taxis. You proceed to payment, and then it'll give you a bunch of payment options. You can basically pay by a standard sort of thing here, where you can pay by credit card, you can pay by Apple Pay, and I don't really need to demonstrate that. That's pretty straightforward. But the point is that once you have paid, it's locked in. It's not a quote, it's not an estimate, it's a confirmed ticket on an aircraft because it knows everything is available because it has all that information. So the other thing I wanted to just show you, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you can have a look through the menus here, but one of the things that's interesting is the deals, where what it does is it basically, whenever there's an empty leg, it automatically sells that empty leg as a deal. So you can see I've got 3 deals on here at the moment, one in a Mustang Jet and the others in a DA62, and you can see it's basically selling those deals for half price. Melbourne to Sydney, Sydney to Melbourne, and Sydney to Armidale. So it just automatically sells any empty legs for half price. So keep an eye on that because it's a good way to get a cheap flight. So that's, in a nutshell, what the Diamond Air Taxis website does. Now, I guess probably the other thing to say is that if you are a charter company or you work for a charter company and you think the company that you're working for or own might be interested in putting your aircraft on this website, because I've got other, if you look at, for example, a flight from, let's say, Brisbane, which I'm not going to go to today because of the cyclone, to, let's say, I don't know, Ballina, something like that, Byron Gateway, and what you'll see there is you'll see I've got other aircraft. So I'm just trying to show you that I've got other aircraft on the system, and you'll see some other aircraft starting to show up at other locations because I've got aircraft not just in Bankstown, but there's other aircraft on the system now. There's about 8 aircraft on the system now. It's growing pretty quickly, and so yeah, if you're a charter company or you have aircraft, you want them on the system, just get in touch, and it's quite easy for us to add your aircraft onto this system. There you go. You got another DA62 up in Archerfield and a different Citation Mustang up there as well. So basically, that's Diamond Air Taxis. Very exciting. It's finally here. I said I was going to do it about a year ago in a video on YouTube. It's done. Well, it's a work in progress, but it's working, and you can it's taking bookings, and I've done quite a lot of jobs through Diamond Air Taxis now. It seems to be gaining some popularity. With that said, I think I might just run through my checks now, rest of the checklist, and get set up to go. I'll probably fast forward a little bit, and we'll talk en route about my Citation Mustang type rating. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Dan G'day, X-Ray 62, Diamond DA62, IFR. Banks down to Canberra, 1 POB, taxis Kilo, receive Golf, request taxi in Airways, ready on reaching.
X-Ray 62, taxi to holding point Alpha 1, runway at 11 centre.
Taxi to holding point Alpha 1, runway 11 centre, X-Ray 62.
62, your clearance, you are cleared to Canberra via Pexu, flight plan route. Bankstown 9 departure, climb via SID 3000, score 4357.
Cleared to Canberra via Pexu planned route. Bankstown 9 departure, climb via SID 3000, squawk 4357, X-ray 62.
Thank you, contact our holding shortcut.
X-ray 62. Okay, so we've got some wet conditions here today, and so what I'm saying is that if we have an engine failure after takeoff here, we won't meet the climb gradient of the SID. So what we will do is we'll remain within the circling area, and we'll just stay close to the airport within that 2.66 nautical miles. We'll climb overhead the field, and once we're at an MSA of 2,500, then we can continue out to 15 miles. So we'll head out west, and then we'll likely do the approach back in. Thanks, Antagoday, X-ray 62, holding point Alpha 1 ready.
X-ray 62, tower report passing 1,500, runway 11 centre, cleared for takeoff.
Runway 11 centre, cleared for takeoff, Wilco, X-ray 62. Okay, so flows, landing lights come on, fuel pumps come on, everything's on now. Pitot heat comes on, flaps are set, trim's set, parking brakes released. Takeoff go around is set. That's normal disregard. Runway's clear, clear right, clear left.
Design, thank you, sir.
Trim set.
206, thanks.
Fuel is both forward normal. Clear for takeoff. It's going to be a left turn at 500 feet and rotate at 78 knots. No wind to correct for. Gradually increase power. Full power is set. All T's and P's are in the green. Airspeed's alive, 50, cross-checked. There's 70. And rotate. Brakes, positive rate. Gear up. Door damper on. Alright, coming up 400 feet, clear of obstacles, positive rate. We'll retract the flaps. Heading's bugged. Flight level change. And we'll start our left turn, clear left. Bring the power back for continuous climb. Follow the around onto 290. Report passing 1,500. Now, one of the constraints of this SID is that we don't pass through 1,500 until we're established on I'm going to set a faster speed just for the climb, so we're not climbing too steeply, and then we bust through 1,500. Get the autopilot on there, just to free us up a little bit. Just level us off there for a moment. Just so we don't go through it. There we go, 1,500, now flight level change. Let's get that nose up now. X-ray 62 passing 1,500.
X-ray 62, contact Sydney departures, frequency 118.4.
Departure 118.4, X-ray 62, good day.
Charlie Zulu Romeo, Center, G'day, identified clear to orange via Cadam, planned route, climb to 8,000.
Orange, Cadam, planned route 8,000, Charlie
Right,
Zulu
we're about to
Romeo.
enter some cloud.
Charlie Zulu Romeo, Sydney QNH, 1020.
1020, Charlie Zulu Romeo.
Sydney departures X-ray 62, passing 2,300, Bankstown 9 departure, climbing 3,000.
X-ray 62 departures, G'day, identified.
X-ray 62. Alright, 290 is the track. Climbing at flight level change 96 knots in heading mode. Becomes 500 to go. Got a message. We can turn our landing and taxi lights off now. We're basically entering IMC anyway. Just make sure we level off at 3,000. We don't bust that. Still on.
Connor 790,
track.
contact Melbourne Center
Okay, gears up.
133.5,
Flaps are up.
G'day.
Fuel pumps are 1 and 2 are off.
790, C up.
Climb power is set. Alternate airs not required yet. We're at 16 degrees outside temperature and landing taxi lights are off. Next check's the descent. Hopefully we'll get a further climb shortly. We'll get our radar. We'll get this aircon off now as well. Don't need that, it's quite cool. Let's back the power up a little bit while we're...
X-ray 62, cleared direct to Pegsu, climb to 4,000.
Direct Pegsu, climb 4,000, X-ray 62. Alright, 4,000 is bugged. Let's go direct Pegsu, direct enter nav mode, Pegsu GPS
Charlie Zulu Romeo, just confirm track and Academ.
Change. We increase the climb power.
Track tracking Cadam, Charlie Zulu Romeo.
And
Charlie Zulu Romeo,
let's get our nose
copy, you're about 30 degrees off. You appear to be tracking 270.
I copy that. We'll track direct Cadam now,
GPS
Charlie Zulu
range
Romeo.
26,
Charlie Zulu Romeo.
96 knots.
G'day, identified just again your last request.
Direct Pegsu, all makes sense.
For the
Zoom it out a bit.
Bring
this down now. Get my seat back a little bit. Get more comfort.
Copy information now, Charlie, and
Really quite a comfortable.
control space. You can expect the current shortly.
It's really quite a comfortable aircraft. We're levelling off at 4,000. And established direct Pegsu, GPS is green. Bit of traffic around, but it's 3,000 under us, so no problem there. What we're going to do now is a couple of other things. We'll set a few things up. So one thing we'll do is...
X-ray 62, contact Melbourne Center. Correction, contact departures 129.7.
Departures 129.7, X-ray 62. Departures X-ray 62, maintaining 4,000.
X-ray 62, departures, g'day, further climb about 4 minutes.
X-ray 62. Okay, so what we'll do...
6117, clear direct to
We've got traffic map, that's all working, we've got weather radar. We can just back the power off a little bit while we're low down in the cloud, just to avoid any sudden bumps. So we'll go to mode, we'll go to weather radar, we'll get that going. Given we are in some weather here. Don't want to go that far out, probably only the next 15 miles would be useful. See if there's any red or any anything particularly ugly. We'll have to point it up a little bit more. What you can also do is go to ground clutter suppression mode, which is pretty cool, gets rid of all the ground clutter. And that indicates it's all pretty clear. A little bit of weather right near us now, which we're about to pass through, and then really nothing at all.
X-ray 62, climb 10,000.
Climb 10,000, X-ray 62. Okay, let's get going. Not sure we're going to be able to out-climb this weather, but at least get the climb going, get the power up.
6117, there will be a delay on further climb due to overtaking jet traffic.
Direct 6117.
Killing 9 Delta, turn right heading 260.
We'll do our best to out-climb it.
Right, 260, killing 9 Delta.
Okay, so we're at climb power 5,300 for 10,000 in flight level change 96. All looks good. Possibly start to get the ATIS on frequency here. You do get it a fair way out with Canberra. So ATIS, we'll put that on
427, clear director will know.
active now.
Director will
Got
know,
up.
Qantas 427.
Already getting it.
Temperature 21. QNH 1024. on first contact with Canberra. Notify receipt of Foxtrot.
And I've got Foxtrot on the screen here, you can see. So with the digitalators, you get the same information. You don't need to listen to it on the radio.
Canberra, terminal information, Foxtrot. Expect instrument approach, runway 17.
We're getting 1,300 feet a minute, 1,350, climb performance 1,400, so it's pretty good. Pretty good climb performance. We did manage to outclimb all that weather. So what we don't know is we don't know whether we're going to do a star, so you know, a Bungo 5 Alpha or 5 Victor arrival. We don't know what whether we're going to do a VOR approach, whether we're going to do a visual approach, runway 17 or runway 12. We just don't know what we can expect at the moment. It's always nice having the certainty of, well, it's just, you know, ILS runway 35. Nothing to really think about. You can automate the whole thing. But
velocity 824, contact.
It's good practice to
125.0.
And you know, you sort of want to get ahead and be able to, you know, forward program everything. You can always get on the radio and request the star and request the VOR 17 approach, and then you can program it all up. But I think it's probably better just to go with the flow.
And 52, contact departures.
Because if you do that, then you might end up being delayed due to other traffic. Whereas if you go with what they want to give you, then you're more likely to get a more rapid, you know, get there more quickly, basically, without delay. Actually, we have a little bit of time now, so in the cruise. So
6117, contact Melbourne 125.
Tell you guys about
125.0, good day, race 128.
Korean Air 402, climb by sit.
Tell you guys a bit about my experience going through a type rating for a jet. So we're in March now. Back in December, I went over to flight safety in the UK at Canberra, and I did a type rating for a
427, contact Melbourne
for a Citation Mustang. So my experience, I've never done a type rating before. I've really, this and the Baron are probably the most complex aircraft I've flown. And so I sort of skipped that turboprop phase and just went straight to the jet. I guess what I found through the process, a couple of things, that just my experience that might help other people. Firstly, it's good to use ForeFlight. If you're familiar with ForeFlight, you can use ForeFlight anywhere in the world. So if you're going to the US flight safety, or you're going to UK flight safety, or Italy, wherever you're going to do your type rating, being able to use ForeFlight, a tool that you're familiar with and use all the time, just makes the whole process a lot easier when you're jumping in the jet and you've got familiarity with the EFB. Second thing, I made a switch a long time ago to the Jefferson to the Jefferson charts, and again that was very useful because all of the charts we used for the training over there were Jefferson charts. So being able to read and understand and be familiar with the Jefferson charts.
X-ray 62, contact Melbourne 125.0.
125.0, X-ray 62. Melbourne Centre, X-ray 62, maintaining 10,000.
X-ray 62, Centre, g'day. And star clearance is the Bungo 5 Alpha for runway 17, maintain 10,000 feet.
Bungo 5 Alpha for runway 17, maintain 10,000, X-ray 62. Okay, let me get that sorted out now. So select arrival, Bungo 5 Alpha, runway 17, load. We'll also load the approach while we're at it. So it'll be the VOR runway 17.
Qantas 1890, when ready, descend to throttle 290.
If we look at...
When ready, descend to throttle 290, Qantas 1890.
I have to have a look at it. So if we look at the charts, we might as well, I'll just brief all this now and we'll come back to the discussion about the Mustang. Okay, so let's go charts. We'll put the stuff in that's relevant. Back the power off a little bit. If you ever need more time, just back the power off. It's pretty simple. Canberra, but we've got heaps of time. It's fine. Canberra. So we'll load up some charts here for Canberra. In fact, what I'll do is I'll clear this out so we don't have the Moorabbin chart. So edit, get rid of those. Done. Add plate, Canberra. Okay, what I like to do is put the FAC in first. Just always do that. Then I'll add the VOR runway 17. I'll also add the Bungo 5 Alpha arrival. So I've got those. So if I have a look at the Bungo 5 Alpha arrival, it starts at Bungo, it's runway 17, so it's going to be landing to the south. And it looks like it brings us around to Goonie and then Talag. And over here, if you have a look at the initial approach fix, there's a range of them, but Talag is one of them. And so we'll select Talag so that it lines up with the end of the star, and then Barrow, the minimum for the approach, we'll also load that up, so we'll get the approach. So we're going to be doing the straight in on the actual Aero Q&H with an MDA of 3250, 3250, enter, and we'll load that. We're not activating it. So that's all loaded, and just having a look at this, so we've got the ATIS, we've already listened to that and we've got it digitally. AWIS we don't need. Canberra approach will be handed over to them. Canberra Tower we will need at some point, but again will be handed over at the right time. CTAF won't need. Ground we will need, 1217. I find it useful I like to have ground on COM2 just standby, just so that I've got it ready to go. Ground, COM to standby. I always know it's there. So when you get off the runway, you're not flustered looking for what's the ground frequency. VOR, we'll tune that in. That'll tune in with the approach. 1167 is already on both nav1, nav2. Final approach course, 170 makes sense. And then we've got 4330 here, 4330, and we've got our MDA 3250, which is on our Barrow Min here. Airport elevation 1900, which I bugged. What also we need to do is we need to get rid of this stuff. So Exeter, Bungo, we'll get rid of Canberra out of there. So then we end up going straight from Bungo into the approach. Otherwise you go into Canberra and back out, which is confusing. So you just want to make sure on your map, just go to the big view of the map and make sure it actually makes sense. So you go Bungo and then you go into the approach, and that'll make sense. What else can we brief here? We'll come back to the missed approach in a minute. We've got roughly, looks like 4,600 is our MSA. We've got a bunch of MSAs on here, but 4,600 is to the direction we're coming from. Current MSA is 5,400. Any notes here? Maybe radar vectored, that's all fine. GNSS permitted in lieu of DME, which is good, because that's what we've got. We've got our distances here, which are DME, but we can use GNSS instead, as I said. So these are our step down altitudes that we need to be setting up our descent profile for. It gives me a descent profile, so it's a 3-degree descent. So down here we can see what our speed would need to be. So for 120 knots on the approach, we've got 637 feet a minute. So there's Talag, 5,100, that'll make sense, and there's our final approach fix at 4,330, 7 miles. 5Ks viz is what we need. We're not doing a circle to land, we'll be doing a straight in for runway 17. And the only other thing we need to brief is the missed approach, which is track to the VOR, which is the aid that we're using for this approach. 1167 Canberra VOR, which is here, which is basically just before the runway. Then track 168, which is basically runway heading at 6 miles and not below. So let's just make sure that's all aligned with what's in here.
Jetstar 718, contact center 133.15, g'day.
Missed approach, Canberra VOR.
133.15, Jetstar 718, g'day.
Okay, that looks like that's 6 miles, 168. Then, yeah, and not below 3,600, so it's got above 3,600 there. turn left, track 020. There it is, manual sequence heading 020 and climb 5,100. Okay, so that all makes sense. The only other thing I need to brief is is actually just have another look at the star. We'll do quickly as well. And just make sure the waypoints line up. So we've got Bungo, we've got Lignu, yep. We've got George, which will be Lake George. We've got Aldop, and then we've got Goonie, and then Canberra, Talag, and onto the approach. So it looks like we're set up, we're briefed, and we've got about 15 minutes to top of descent. So we'll check the weather a bit closer and just make sure nothing's changed there. We've got it displaying Foxtrot is what it's on now. 1024, I just like to set that on the standby, so we've got that ready to go. Righto, so let's come back to the talk about the Mustang, Citation Mustang type rating. So yeah, so as I said, being familiar with ForeFlight was really, really useful over there because I could just use it over there. Being familiar with the Jefferson charts, again, was a very, very useful thing. I would say the other things that made it, it was a lot harder than, I'd sort of, you sort of talk to people and they say, oh yeah, you'll find it pretty easy, it's all pretty good. It's a bit intense, like drinking from a fire hose, things like that, people would say. But, you'll be fine. And to be honest, it was pretty intense. It's a 3-week course. The first week is basically learning the systems of the aircraft. So you go through all of the the brake system, the pneumatic systems, all these kinds of fire systems, various systems. There's a lot of new systems. I've never flown a pressurized, I've never flown a jet, so there was quite a lot of new systems that I wasn't familiar with. But overall, it was pretty straightforward to learn them. You can read that stuff before you go, and you can go and get full marks in that test. It's not that hard. You do some flight planning as well, so, climb, descent, sort of planning, fuel planning, weight and balance, all the usual stuff. That's the first week. The second 2 weeks, then, you spend pretty much every day in the sim. They'll give you a flight that you need to do. You have a bit of time to brief that. You jump in the sim. It's all simulator-based training, by the way, as well. There's no flying the actual aircraft. And then, basically, they'll just start throwing. So you're in the sim. You've got a flight from A to B. Maybe an hour sort of duration, and then straight away the failures will start coming. And basically they're throwing all sorts of failures at you. You almost always get a failure on an engine failure on takeoff. You get a lot of low visibility departures. You get fires, you get pump failures, you get gear failures, you get all sorts of failures. And basically it's just 2 weeks of flying a simulator, just copying failure after failure after failure, and trying at the same time to fly fairly complicated instrument approaches in low visibility weather, where you end up having to do missed approaches. I did also do some circling approaches in the sim, which is not normal over there. The other thing I learned is that, which I wasn't aware, is that single pilot charter in jets is not done in Europe. So almost all the training that they do is for multi-crew. And so it's not often that they train someone single pilot in the jet, because most people are doing it for a job. And if you're doing it for a job, it's charter, Part 135, whatever, and it's multi-crew. So it's intense. Like it was every day you just wiped out at the end of the day. You're pulling checklists up, trying to fly the plane. The autopilot's not working. You're hand flying a hold. Hand flying the ILS, whatever it is in low visibility. It was a workout. They really throw everything at you to see kind of what your limits are, and really to see that you don't fall apart. And I guess the big thing for me was that, if you feel like you're getting behind, just take up a hold, request vectors, just do something to buy yourself some time. You're not going to fail by taking your time and taking up a hold for longer than they think is necessary. So just use those kind of, use holds, use vectors, use the ATC, which is them in the background, to buy you time to make sure you're working through the checklist. Don't cut corners and don't go through the checklist and things like that. You've got to do all that. But yeah, look, it's intense. So then I did the training, and then what happens when you come back here is you can't just jump in a Mustang and go flying because the insurance won't allow it. So, and neither will the operator. So, and probably the owner. So what you then have to do is go through a program of flying ICAS, which is in command under supervision. So you're flying the plane, but you have an experienced pilot sitting next to you in the right-hand seat, watching what you're doing, making sure you don't make mistakes. And so I've now done maybe, I don't know, 12 or 15 hours ICAS in Citation Mustangs, a couple of different Mustangs. And, you know, what I found is that it's, you know, it's obviously a lot easier flying the real plane when you're not having phase being thrown at you all the time. It's a beautiful aircraft. It flies so well. It's such a nice step up from flying the Piston Twins. They just have so much power, so much speed. You're cruising along at a, you know, TAS of about 340 knots. You're up at, you know, 41,000 feet if you want to. Pressurized. You know, no need for oxygen, you know, cannulas or any of that kind of stuff. It's a fantastic experience. I'm loving it. And on the Air Taxi website, you can see we've now got Citation Mustangs. We've actually got, I think, 4 Citation Mustangs on the website. So I'm starting to do some of that ICAS as part of delivering some of those Air Taxi services as well. Talag, X-ray 62. All right, so if we remember, Talag was actually the initial approach fix. Correct, enter. Talag, initial approach fix, GPS is green. So we're actually now basically skipping the star and flying straight to the initial approach fix. We're above cloud, so
Bungo 5 Yankee, arrival, runway 17, flight level
not much for you to see, unfortunately. So yeah, if you've got any questions, if you're a charter operator and you want to get your aircraft on our Air Taxi website, at the end of the day, what I'd really like is that the Air Taxi website becomes the aggregator for all charter flights, you know, why not in Australia and beyond perhaps, and so, you know, it's a familiar interface, it's a common interface for customers. It's easy to use, it's familiar because it's similar to the way the airline presents things. It has a standard cancellation policy. You don't get different policies from different companies. It has a standard policy. It has a standard presentation. It has a standard bookings process. It remembers your details as passenger, your weight and balance and previous passengers you booked. You know, it's basically a familiar and standard way of booking a point-to-point or direct charter flight between 2 airports in Australia. We can service far more airports than the airlines do, and we can do it direct. We can do it on your schedule, and we can do it basically when you want to go and when you want to come back. It really makes, you know, when you're doing that, even though the actual, you know, for example, in a diamond, the actual flying speed is a bit slower than an airliner, when you cut out all the other stuff, you know, I find that if I fly to Melbourne on an airline, I'm actually sitting in the seat for nearly 2 hours on that 737. From when I, you know, board and I sit down to when I actually get off, with all the other passengers getting on and getting off, all the boarding delays and the taxi time at Sydney Airport and all that kind of stuff, it ends up, whilst the flight time might be an hour and 10 or an hour and 15 or whatever it ends up being, you're actually sitting in the seat for nearly 2 hours. And, you know, if I fly someone from Bankstown to Melbourne, it's about 2 hours, maybe a little bit over. So you actually, you know, you're not actually flying, the actual total time's actually not that much different. Anyway, I'm going to get prepared for this approach and not get distracted by YouTubing. Good to talk. I'm glad I was able to make this video. I'll try and make some, maybe I can try and make a video flying ICAS in the Citation Mustang, if that's something people would be interested in seeing. And I'll try and do that in one of the upcoming videos. Thanks again, guys. Hopefully I'll get to talk to you again before landing, but if not, thanks for riding along.
X-ray 62, contact Canberra approach 124.5, good day.
Canberra approach 124.5, X-ray 62, good day. 124.
Qantas 409, contact Santa 132.2.
What they're going to want to know is that I've got the ATIS. So what I'm going to just quickly check is see if it's changed. It's Foxtrot still. Instrument approach, runway 17. 1024, Foxtrot. Canberra approach, g'day, X-ray 62, maintaining 10,000, receive Foxtrot, and we're direct tele.
X-ray 62, Canberra approach, hello. Will I help me out a lot if you can accept the visual approach 17 by a 5 mile final? Let me know.
Stand by, X-ray 62. Visual approach, 5 mile final, runway 17. X-ray 62, I'd prefer to fly the VOR approach runway 17, but I'm happy to be vectored or slow down if that helps.
X-ray 62, in that case, expect vectors. There's a queuing that has to pass you.
No problem, X-ray 62. Yeah, I mean, I normally comply and do that, but with it being instrument conditions, I've kind of had this happen to me before where I've come into Canberra and I don't really know what the conditions are there. I mean, it's expect instrument approach. I'm obviously above a fair bit of cloud here. What can happen is you end up getting in and out of cloud. You can't find the runway. You're looking for joining a final. It can be a little bit hard to...
62, turn right heading 270.
Turn right heading 270, Tracy 2. I'm not in a huge rush today. If I was, I'd probably do that. But I think today I'd rather probably just stick to the... And I wanted to do the VOR approach runway 17. It's been a while since I've done a VOR approach. So anyway, I'd prefer to do that. So don't be afraid to just stick to your plan if you know, if you need to, and if you're happy to slow down, just let them know.
X-ray 62, when ready, descent to 8,000, QNH 1024.
When ready, descend 8,000, QNH 1024, X-ray 62. Okay, 1024.
Vertical track.
And proper descent 1 minute. So what we'll do is we'll arm VPath. Because I'm going to be dialing the QNH up to 1024, what it's going to do is it's going to put me into a steeper descent. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start the descent in VS mode, and then I'll let VNAV kick in. So VPath's in white, ready to go. I bugged a lower altitude, that's ready to go. But what I...
53, leave Canberra on the heading of 29.
To avoid, you know, if you've got passengers on board and you're dialing up the QNH to a higher number, and if it's substantial, the difference, which is not that substantial today, but what happens is it ends up putting you into a fairly steep descent, which is not that comfortable for the passengers. X-ray 62 is leaving 10,000 for 8,000.
X-ray 62.
All right, so we'll just start a 500 feet per minute descent, and we're in VS mode, and that because we're in VS mode, I can now dial this up to 1024, and then VPath will kick in. I'll back the power off a little bit for descent. Away we go. On our way down, yeah, we're starting to get a bit clearer now. We probably would have been okay on a visual approach, but anyway, decisions made. I'll put my seat back up and I'll tick the rest of the checklist off. So altimeter is set 1024 and they're both indicating 93. Adjustable backrest is upright. Everything's done. Go to the next checklist. We've got flap, gear and rudder trim. So it's basically simple. It's again a simple flow: gear, trim, flap. These three. It's a pretty quick flight down to Canberra. It's actually quite a good little business flight because you avoid all the delays of Sydney Airport. You're only going in generally on a turboprop anyway, so it's not that fast. And
43, you've left control area.
You can basically park for nothing at Bankstown Airport. Jump on, fly down. You're down here in 45 minutes and jump straight in your Uber. You can even order your Uber from the aircraft.
Descent 7,000.
Descent 7,000, X-ray 62.
X-ray 62, resume navigation track direct Tallaght. Your position's 9 miles to the north of Tallaght.
Navigation direct Tallaght, X-ray 62.
X-ray 62, descent to 5,000, cleared VOR approach.
Descent 5,000, cleared the VOR approach, X-ray 62. Okay, 5,000 set, VS it down. Let's get that happening. Direct Tallaght, enter, and make sure I'm in nav mode. GPS is green, and I'm cleared the approach, so we can hit approach. Not that it'll do anything because it's a VOR approach. There's no vertical guidance. We can descend to 5,100 Talag, he's given us a descent to 5,000. If you have a look at the map here, this banana is really useful. It shows me I'm going to be at 5,000 before Talag, and the approach starts at 5,100 at Talag, so that all looks pretty good. I can even soften out that descent, maybe 600 feet a minute, and that little banana will go further back. Probably can't see that. Maybe if I do that. There it is. There's Talag. There's the banana. That's where I'm going to hit 5,000. And, you know, so I'm basically at the right height at the start of the approach. I'm going to do a 3-degree descent from there. Should be on the chart. Not yet. Yeah, I mean, if I was visual, I'm now at 5,700. Ground's about just under 2,000. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't be able to see the runway at all yet, and you're only about 7 miles out. You wouldn't be seeing the runway. So I definitely prefer the instrument approach today.
Type N 43, turn right heading 34, location type N 53, turn right heading 340.
At 9.4 miles, 5,100. We're on the map, we're on the chart. Here we are. We're about to arrive at Talag, 1.5 miles to go. We're at 5,300 for 5,000. It's all looking pretty good. We can go over, we've cleared the approach, so we can go over to the green needles. It might automatically switch over. It doesn't always do it. And we'll have to get a VS going at 9.4 miles. Okay, I'm now visual.
62, thank you. I'll contact Tower 118.7.
Tower 187, X-ray 62. Let's go over to Tower. Let's just get this set up first. You don't want to get sort of distracted at this point. So we've got LNAV showing. We're going to go to the green needles. We're on the green needles. VOR is green, so that's going to track us within those green needles. Canberra Tower, g'day, X-ray 62's VOR, approach runway 17, Talag.
X-ray 62, Canberra Tower.
We've got 3 green, no red. We're within flap speed. We'll get our first stage of flap out as well. Sometimes you're asked to do these approaches a little bit faster. It's a funny approach, the VOR 17. You come in on this funny angle, and it's because of these mountains over here. So you're sort of taking the path through these mountains. In fact, we'll head to heading mode now. And we'll get aligned with the Pappy. Gears down, trim set, flaps. We've got one more stage to go. I won't do it too early because we'll end up being too slow. We'll use the Pappy for guidance now. That shows us 1 dot high. We've got 1 red, 2 white. So we'll just keep descending now. We're at the minimum, we're visual, and we're continuing the approach. We'll pack this up.
Minimums.
Yep. We're lining up with the runway now. So you can see you get quite close to these hills if you are lined up with the runway, which is why the approach brings you in to the left of those mountains. Okay, we've got our landing lights on, we've got our pumps on, we've got our gear down, and we'll take our last stage of flap shortly.
Canberra Tower, Victor Echo Zulu
Get rid
ready.
of the flight director, it's not helping us at this point.
Victor Echo Zulu, ready, immediate traffic, say diamond at 2.5 miles.
Hey, phone, Victor Echo Zulu.
Victor Echo Zulu, sign heading 170, runway 17, cleared for immediate takeoff.
Yeah. Sign heading 170, runway 17, okay. Cleared immediate takeoff, Victor
Got
Echo
that
Zulu.
aircraft here. So what I will do is I'll bring in that extra stage of flap now.
X-ray 62, continue approach, expect a late clearance. Traffic's a Saab departing from taxiway intersection Foxtrot.
Continue approach, traffic sighted, X-ray 62. So just bring in that last stage of flap, brings our speed down a little bit, gives that Saab a little bit more time to get away. Looks totally fine. Okay, we're now 2 dots, 2 red, 2 white. We're on profile. Speed's coming back to VREF.
X-ray 62, runway 17, clear to land.
Runway 17, clear to land, X-ray 62. Just a little bit above VREF. Gear flap trim, checklist complete.
Victor Echo Zulu, contact departures, g'day.
Departures, Victor Echo Zulu, have a good day.
Okay, nice and smooth. Now my parking's over there, so I'm going to want to exit to the right. Delta. There's Delta. Right, Peter, heat off. That's the one thing you need to get done. There's no speed brakes to retract.
Canberra Tower, velocity 1215, ready.
So what we'll do, we won't clean up until we're off the runway.
Right, runway 17, velocity 1215.
X-ray 62, take Juliet to second left and contact ground now 1217.
Take Juliet and contact ground 1217, X-ray 62. Okay, Juliet is the second left, which is there, and ground 1217. Canberra ground, g'day, X-ray 62 is on Juliet, request taxi to GA for parking.
X-ray 62, Canberra ground, taxi on Juliet, cross runway 12 to the GA parking.
Taxi on Juliet, cross runway 12 and taxi to the GA parking, X-ray 62.
QJet 1277,
right,
continue
Juliet,
taxi,
this is a runway coming up.
Holding point echo, runway 17.
So we've been cleared to cross it. So cleaning up now, so pitot off, humps 1, 2 come off, landing lights come off, leave the taxi light on, flaps up. And I'll leave the aircon off for now. It's not that hot down here. We're cleared across, but we still check. Clear right, clear left. I'm not going to be on the ground here very long, and then we'll get away back up to Sydney. A little air taxi transport. It is pretty easy to get to and from Canberra. Quick and easy. Now, working out where to park. Well, thanks guys for coming along. I won't bore you with all the checklist. Hopefully you enjoyed that. It's good to talk about the Citation Mustang type rating, but also have a chat about the Diamond Air Taxis website. Please get on, have a look. Love it if you can subscribe. I love getting comments from you guys. So hope to do another one of these videos soon in the jet. And until then, thanks for watching. Thanks again for watching, guys. Just going to go and get a coffee and have a short break before returning to Sydney with passengers. See you later.